math class. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another lesson. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 65, parts 1 through 4. So let's get started. For part 1, you're going to write complete equations that show the mixed number each fraction equals. So for problem number A, we have 38 ninths, or the fraction 38 divided by 9. So what we have to do is change this into a mixed number. That means we have to create, or we have to make this equal a whole number plus a fraction. So our first step is to figure out how many times can 9 go into 38. So we can skip count by 9s. 9, 18, 27, 36. Right? So we know that our whole number will be 4. So right here, I'm just going to write a little box. And I'm going to multiply these two numbers. 9 multiplied by 4 will give me 36. So I'll put 36 right there. So now what we have to figure out is what do I have to add to 36 to get to 38? 37, 38, 2. So I have to add 2. But I'm not done yet. Remember, I need this to be a fraction, and it has to be over the same number as my other fraction. So I'm going to make it 2 over 9. And we're done part A. So once again, our first step was to see how many times could 9 go into 38, right? So we said that it can go 4 times. So then 9 multiplied by 4 was 36. We need to get to 38, so we had to add 2 more, which is what we did for our fraction, and then we had to put it over 9 because our other fraction is over 9. So our answer is 38 divided by 9, or 38 over 9, equals 4 plus 2 ninths. So let's try doing part B. In part B, we have the fraction 27 fourths. Written as a division problem, we can read it as 27 divided by 4. So what we need to do is figure out what mixed number this will equal. So our first step is to figure out how many times can 4 go into 27 without going over, right? We know that 4 can go into 27 6 times. So 6 will be our whole number. I'm going to make a little box right here. 4 multiplied by 6 is 24. So now we have to figure out what do we have to add to 24 to get to our 27. Right? We have to add 3. But we need this to be a fraction, and we have to put it over the same number. So it'll be 3 over 4. So our answer is 27 over 4 equals 6 plus 3 fourths. Let's do one more together. Let's do problem C. So in problem C, once again, we're going to use the same steps. We have 34 fifths, or if we read it as a division problem, we have 34 divided by 5. So our first step is to figure out how many times can 5 go into 34. So we can skip count by 5s. You can use your multiplication chart, but we cannot go over 34. So we can go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Oh, 35 is too much. So we know that it will go 6 times without going over. So our whole number will be 6. Right here, I'm going to just make my box, and I'm going to multiply these two numbers. That will give me 30. So now what I have to figure out is what do I have to add to 30 to get to 34? Right? I need to add 4. But I have to make sure to put it over the same bottom number, so it'll be 4 over 5. So our answer is 34 over 5 equals 6 plus 4 over 5, or 4 fifths. So you guys can pause the video now and work on problems D and E. Once again, you're going to follow the same steps that we just did. So I'll see you guys in part 2. Let me just erase my board here. So let's find part 2. I've attached an image that comes from your textbook, which you can follow along with. So in your book it says, you've learned that if you multiply a fraction by 1, you'll end up with the same value you started with. If you don't multiply the first fraction by 1, you don't end up with the same value you started with. You've also learned that if two pictures of fractions are equal, they have the same shaded area that is the same size. So that's what we looked at in, I think a few lessons ago, where you had to write equivalent fractions. So you had to look at the pictures of the various images and say which ones were equal to each other. We could tell which ones were equal by looking at the part that was shaded. If the images had the same part that was shaded, they were equal. So here are two pictures of fractions that are equal. So if we look at that image, you can see that the same amount of space is shaded in both. You can write the equation for these pictures. Your equation will show the two fractions that are equal. The equation will also show the fraction of 1 you multiply by. So here are the pictures for the two fractions. So in your sample problem that they give you, they draw this. I will quickly draw it for you. 1, 2. And then you have this. So these are the two images they give you. And they are equal because if you look at the parts that are shaded, it's the same amount of space. So what they show you is that you're going to write the fraction for this image, right? There are two parts that are shaded, so your top number will be 2. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts in one unit, so our fraction will be 2 over 4. If we look at this image, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts are shaded, and there's 12 parts in one unit. So what they want us to do, to check that they're equal, if we multiply the top number and the bottom number by the same number, then both of these fractions will be equal. Right? So to get 2 multiplied by what number will give us 6? It'll be 3. And then 4 multiplied by what number will give us 12? It'll also be 3. So that's how we can tell that these fractions are equal, right? 3 over 3 will equal to 1 whole. So if the top number and the bottom number are multiplied by the same number, that means both of these fractions will be equal. So let's start with problem A. We'll do problem A together, and then I want you guys to try doing problem B on your own. In problem A, we have our first image, which has 1 part shaded and 3 parts in one unit. And then in the other image, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 parts that are shaded, and there's 12 parts in each unit. So let's write the fraction. This one is 1/3, and then this one will be 4/12. So what we have to do is fill in these numbers. So what we have to do once again is 1 multiplied by what number will give us 4? 4. 3 multiplied by what number will give us 12? Also 4. So since these are the same numbers, that tells us that these fractions will be equal. These numbers will have to be the same. If they were anything different, then the fractions will not be equivalent. So look at number 2. We'll do that together as well, and then you can try part C on your own. For part B, we have in the first fraction, I won't draw it this time, but I'll write it in. We have 2 parts that are shaded, and there's 4 parts in 1 unit. For the second image, you have 6 parts that are shaded and 12 parts in 1 unit. So what we have to figure out is what we're multiplying by. We want these to be the exact same number for the top and the bottom. That will tell us that these fractions are equal. So 2 multiplied by what number will give us 6? 3. And then 4 multiplied by what number will give us 12? Also 3. So now we know that both of these fractions are equivalent. So you can pause the video now and look at part C. Here is where you'll put the fraction for the first image. Here is where you will put the fraction for the second image. And then you have to figure out what you have to multiply the top and the bottom by. You should get the same number for your top and for your bottom. So I'll see you guys in part 3. So welcome to part 3. Once again, we're going to write fractions and names for the sentences. So the first one is done for us. It tells us that 7 leaves fell for every 5 seeds that fell. Right? So first we're going to make up a fraction using our words. Right? So for 7 leaves fell for every 5 seeds that fell. Right? So we have leaves divided by seeds. So now what we have to do is use numbers. How many leaves fell? 7. For how many seeds? 5. So we're done. Let's look at part B. In part B, it tells us there are 6 dogs for every 9 cats. Right? 6 dogs for every 9 cats. So we'll put dogs divided by cats. And then for our numbers, there's 6 dogs for every 9 cats. Right, so here's part B once again. Please make sure to write out the whole words, and then right beside it, you're going to write the fraction. So you can continue with part C and D, and then I'll see you in part 4. So welcome back to part 4. So I'll read what it says in our instructions. These are like problems we've worked on before, except that you'll write division problems with 3 digits under the division sign. Then you're going to solve. So before we solve the multiplication problem, the first thing they want us to do is to write this as a division problem. We're going to solve it first as a division problem, and then our answer will finish off the multiplication problem. So let's look at this. We have 5 multiplied by a number equals 355. And then underneath it, you have your division. Right, so we're going to leave this alone. We're not going to solve for the multiplication problem. Instead, we're going to put this in our division sign. Right, so this number, after the equal sign, is going to go underneath the division sign. So 355. Now we're going to divide it by 5. So our first number is going to go in front of our division sign. So now we're going to look at the 5 and try to divide into the numbers underneath the division sign. Can 5 divide into 3? No. So now I'm going to look at the next number as well. Can 5 divide into 35? Yes, it can. And now we have to write how many times. So let's practice skip counting by 5s until we get to 35. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So it goes 7 times. We're not going to write the 7 over the 3. Remember, it's going to be a 0 and a 7. We don't have to write this 0, but we have to remember that it's there. So the 7 has to go over the 5. I'm going to erase that 0. Right? So now we have to figure out the last number, 5. So how many times does 5 go into 5? 1 time. And I'm going to write it over the 1. So our answer is 71. So now that we've solved, I can plug in that missing number in my multiplication problem. 5 multiplied by 71 equals 355. So let's try one more together. Let's look at part B. So once again, we're not going to solve the multiplication problem first. We're going to solve our division problem and then write the answer for the missing number in our multiplication problem. So for part B, we have 6 multiplied by a number equals 360. So right underneath, we're going to do our division sign. The number after the equal sign, the 360, is going to go right underneath my division sign. The 6 is going to go right at the front. So now we're going to look at the 6 and start dividing it under the numbers. So can 6 divide into 3? No. Can 6 divide into 36? Yes, it can. Right? 36 divided by 6 equals 6. Remember, the 6 has to go above the 6 because there is that 0, 6. But we don't write the 0 because it's in front of the number. And now we have to divide. Can 6 divide into 0? Yes. How many times? 0 times. So our answer is 60. So now that we've solved our division problem, I'm going to write that number in for our multiplication problem. So 6 multiplied by 60 equals 360. So if you look on the other page, you have parts C and D. So please complete those for today. So once again, all we're doing for today's class is parts 1 through 4. If you have any questions, please let us know. And keep up the awesome work. See you guys.